Good morning. My name is Scott Quimby from Computer Systems Integrators in Fishkill, New York. I am on the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce IT Committee. And what we've decided to do is expand from our format of just having a couple on-site seminars a year and start trying to do some webcasts and leverage this technology to kind of save you time on things you want to know about and impart some information without having to consume half a day. So this is our first grand experiment in this process. You should see, if you joined us here, you should see a Join Me In dialog box probably at the top of your screen. There's a little phone there where you can either connect via internet or via phone number. I posted that on the slide here. I've heard that there's some other numbers that people have gotten to that connect. I know the number on the screen does work. There's also a button to connect via the internet if you're on a tablet or a phone or don't have access to a phone. It's all the same. There's also a little chat button there. The little dialog box. And if you do have questions or what have you, please just click on that and we'll capture the questions and we'll go from there. This is being recorded and we'll be posting this on the Chamber website for future reference if you want to watch it again or have others that you want to see this. Also, at the end, I'll talk about the schedule we know for the other events, and we do have some lovely parting gifts for some of you for attending today. So we'll get to that at the end of the presentation. Come on. So again, I'm Scott Quimby. We're going to talk today about remote access solutions, kind of a very basic 101, some thoughts about connecting. Michael Gertz from Darkangelo also helped me immensely with the presentation you're going to see. He had another commitment today or he would be joining me. All right, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what is remote access, different types of access, some pros and cons, things to think about, and answer your questions. And as I said, if you have them, please just type them in. All the phones right now are muted just for the sake of noise and you guys doing whatever you're doing in your offices. So what is remote access? It's basically accessing to the files, the records, information, programs in your business. Generally, you're coming in from a remote device through the internet. So that's going to be your phone. That's going to be a tablet. That's going to be a laptop sitting at home. That's going to be a laptop or a tablet sitting at a customer location. That's what we're talking about here. And there's really two types of access that people need. The first one is people say, well, I just need access to some files and folders on my computer server in my office. So a spreadsheet, a document, a PDF, some sort of static file, so to speak. So I need to get my price list. I need to find the form I need my client to sign or what have you. That's one type. The other type is I actually need to run an application. I have a program that does quoting. I have a database. I need to run QuickBooks. I need to run accounting or other things. I need to look up whether I have a part in inventory. I actually need to run something. I don't just need a document. So those are really the two distinct types. Where do I need it from? Well, we kind of talked about this. One of them as well that a number of people are doing is I have more than one office. We had a client of ours 2 months ago. They bought another company across town. And so now we're kind of morphing these two places together. So you have people remote. Have another client who's starting an office in Danbury, but they're based here in Dutchess County, and so there's a growing number of people out there. Contractors often have basically, a field trailer or something like that where they're working, doing work. So some of those connections may need to be more permanent than others. So some, I'm sitting at home, I want to get a file, I need to reach in, get the file, I'm gone. Same with a customer location. But maybe a remote field office or a branch office, I may need a constant connection. I may need them in Danbury to think that they're sitting in Wappingers or something like that, as well as accessing from the phone. Now, here's the reality of remote access. The experience you're going to get is a direct proportion to your internet connection. So if you have a lousy internet connection, then you're going to have a lousy remote access experience with many of these things we're going to talk about. If you look at most providers, if you look at a Optimum or a Time Warner or the like, what happens is that you have you basically have an upload speed and a download speed. The upload speed is essentially the slower speed for most of these providers. The exception would be somebody like Verizon Fios, which not all of you can have, and Light Tower. They tend to have what's called more symmetrical providers in terms of their up and down speeds could be the same. Optimum and Time Warner, if you go to their commercial divisions, they have those offerings too, but the traditional cable modem, that tends to be more down than up. And if you're sitting at home or you're browsing the web or using an online application, the down speed is what you really feel, so that's actually good. But if you're trying to be not in your office, working in your office or that remote field office, that up speed is going to be very important as well. The internet connection at work, say it's a really good connection. You have an Optimum 101 down, 20 up connection, or a Verizon 3535 or Time Warner 1010. Good connections. The basic gist is if the other end has a lousy connection, your phone, 3G, even LTE, or it's a basic cable modem or what have you, then you may very well have a poor remote experience, depending on what you're trying to do, especially if you're trying to run an application. If you're sitting in Danbury trying to run the database or QuickBooks through the internet on a wireless phone connection, it's probably going to be a pretty bad experience. Now, if you have a high-speed connection, which many people like the schools in Dutchess County have, then you pretty much where you are is kind of irrelevant. The first thing that we do when we want to go out and get back in, the most common thing, is something called a virtual private network. And basically a virtual private network, or VPN is the acronym. The concept is we don't just want to unlock the internet to your office and just let anybody randomly come through and walk through. We want to essentially make sure that only people who are authorized to be here are here. And if you don't belong, you see nothing, you know nothing. So most commercial grade firewalls, which you have against the internet with that cable modem or whatever your connection is to the internet, have the ability to do a VPN connection. And essentially what you do is you authenticate. You say, hi, it's me. You give password credentials, and based on who you are, it unlocks the door, just like you go to work, you unlock the door in the morning. And then that remote computer is considered inside your work network, even if it's in Danbury, even if it's home, even if it's around the world. And since you're inside, you see the things inside just as if you're sitting in your office. So that's really cool. Now, what happens is you essentially have exposed the inside of your network to this machine. We'll talk about that in a second. Your virtual private network is going to create a secure connection. Whoop, I'm sorry, I hit my mouse. Sorry about that. It's fast to do. It's easy to do. It's easy to set up. Like I said, most commercial firewalls will do this. And it's really, really great if you're just accessing files and documents and spreadsheets and the like. It's awesome, all right, because it's 2 seconds to get in. Hey, it's me. Give me my stuff. I'm gone. Life is good. Bad people stay out. The downside of it is without an excellent internet connection, you're probably not going to, in a VPN scenario, run actual applications remotely. So I'm not going to sit on my laptop on my kitchen table, connect to the VPN, and be running QuickBooks in a way that's going to make me smile. If you've connected, allowed someone to connect their computer to inside your network, you've exposed your network to potentially bad things. You don't necessarily have control over your employees' computers. So one of your employees' kid is downloading bad things with viruses in the den for pirated movies or whatever, and the machine is infected, and now they VPN into you, and they're now inside you, and you have the potential of spreading bad things into your world that are not from your office. The other thing is, the thing more and more people are concerned about these days is data leak, is the concept, a user, one of my employees VPNs in, they grab some files and they take them out of the building. Some of you, if you're in the medical business with HIPAA and the new HIPAA guidelines that came online in, the teeth of the law came into effect on September 23rd. This is scary stuff with protected healthcare information, but also you just go back to, you have I had one person attended a seminar a couple of years ago, and they said, well, my customer list is gold, right? My pricing, how I price and how we cost a job, it's the secret sauce. And so, where is that data going, and who are you letting in? Now, you can control who has these connections, and we'll talk about there's some ways to control what people can potentially take. We'll talk about that later. Moving along, there's a couple different types of VPN. Microsoft has just in their Windows products and the like, they have a built-in version. Cisco, which what we use a lot of, SonicWall, Checkpoint, there's some of the big commercial firewall people that if you don't have, you probably should have one of those names as your firewall. The commercial grade have these type of VPNs, and there's two types, and I basically show examples here on the right. What we have here on the right, the top right, is an SSL VPN. That means I go to a web page which represents your firewall through the internet, and I say, hi, it's me, with password and ID, and then it says okay, and based on who I am, it lets me go someplace and see something. Depending on the sophistication, I can control where the someplace is. So I can say certain people can see certain things, not other things. But in a small network, realistically, you're just seeing what you have. And then the traditional client is at the bottom. I click on the little padlock, I say connect, I give it my credentials. They both do the same thing. More and more are kind of the web page version now. Remote desktop access. Now, like I said, copying files in and out, you can do that whether I'm on my laptop or my tablet or what have you, and that's going to hold up pretty well, even if your connection isn't immensely great at the other end, because we're just kind of grabbing stuff and going. But we said if the connection at the other side isn't really good, wherever you're remoting from, running that database through the internet or that QuickBooks through the internet is going to be pretty lousy experience, most likely. So what the technology that you have is, the first step is I have to get there. And then once I get there, what can I do when I get there? Remote desktop access is built into most versions of Windows. And they have these for Macintosh if you're a Mac person or the like as well. And basically what it does is it cheats and it leverages the connection, and instead of trying to run the entire QuickBooks or the entire database down through the internet to wherever I'm sitting at, what we do is we just take the desktop screen and we remotely project it. So we just send the screen, we send the keyboard, we send the mouse. All the actual work is still going on in your office. So what that allows us to do is do really awesome things on okay to even perhaps marginal connections at home or remotely, because we're not trying to run it remotely. We're running it in the office. So basically your desktop experience, so to speak, should be basically the same thing as it is, roughly the same thing as it is if you're sitting physically at your desk. That's what's so cool about remote desktop, because you can be at home or I literally have done a bunch of things where my wife's driving to Ohio for Thanksgiving and I'm remoted into my desk still doing work while she's driving down the interstate. And I'm pretty oblivious to the fact that I'm sitting in the car. She just drives and I keep working so we can leave early. It's really cool technology. And for the most part, it's free, though there are kind of more enterprise, fancier versions that do cost money. So because we're sitting essentially remotely at our desk, everything we'd expect to have at our desk is still there. The printers are there, the share drives are there, the servers are there, and the like. We can also create a connection, and this is optional, so that we can copy files from remote to our desk or vice versa. Depending on how this is set up, we may be able to better control what files leave or not. Because we're not running things through the internet to the remote computer, even if that computer is technically infected that's remoting into the desktop, you're not really going to get the infection in, because we're not sending data from the remote computer to the office computer. We're just sending the screen. So basically, it has a better control against bad things sneaking in. The downside of remote desktop, you have to have a desktop or a server to connect to. So if you're a laptop person and you take your laptop from work with you when you leave the office, well, what are you going to connect to from a remote location? You need a machine that's an anchor machine there. You need a server that can do this or what have you. I have a desktop and I have a laptop, so when I leave the office, I use my laptop to remote back to my desktop. So it's always there, it's always on, it's always fine. You get into this question, if you're small, if there are multiple remote users and you don't have a computer for them to remote to, how do you keep track of what is going on? There are free solutions such as logmein.com, which is very popular. We're going to talk about that more in a sec, that actually people can set up potentially on their own and be doing remote access into your office potentially without your knowledge. All right. We have ways to block that, but I can't tell you the number of times where we've called up a client and through our monitoring solutions, and we've said, why is LogMeIn on Charlie's machine? And they're like, I don't know. And they set up a remote access into the company, not for nefarious reasons in that case, but to get to their desk, and the people in charge were not aware that they did that. So there are a bunch of these products like LogMeIn and the like, but we can block them if we know that. All right, let's talk about some of these solutions now. We'll start with the free ones. In the Windows world, Microsoft Remote Desktop, it's built into XP Professional, Vista Business, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 8 Professional, Windows servers. It's great for internal remote access, and it's good when you have some sort of gateway to get to your office. If you're running a small business server, a Windows small business server, they actually have the gateway in the box. Many people don't know that web workplace exists in what they already own, but it's there, and there is a connection to do this through a Microsoft Small Business Server. Now, I've had some very small people just turn this on to the internet. Wow, this is so cool. They just open it up. Oh my gosh, is this dangerous? I had one little medical firm, and they had a billing office, and the billing office was just so offended when I talked about VPNs and security because they just remote in. This is akin to leaving your front door unlocked, the alarm off in your office, and just locking the file cabinet and hoping that that's good enough. You should never, ever, ever allow a remote desktop or anything like that, whether VNC, some of the other things we're going to talk about, to directly touch the internet without some sort of firewall, VPN, some sort of thing to basically protect you from the bad people, because this is a bad thing if it's just connected to the internet. And people do that. I have people that have done that. It's not a good thing. All right, we want to combine the power of this with something like a VPN that a real commercial firewall would have. All right, and so here I remote in, and I'm bottom right here. I'm just looking at Outlook, pulling up an Excel spreadsheet, doing whatever I do. That's what it can do. Some of the other solutions that are out there, VNC. VNC is free. It works on a variety of operating systems, Windows. It's, again, great for this sort of stuff. If you combine it with a VPN, it's great. Same deal, con, never, ever, ever expose this to the internet. You're basically giving away access to your world because the security is not really good in terms of trying to protect you against the internet. There's some commercial solutions. Go to My PC is the Citrix one. You hear the commercials on the radio every 3 minutes. Excellent solution to this. You got to purchase it. It is something that we can block too. So if you don't want that sort of thing in your world, we can do that. The one that's probably the most popular that I'll spend some time on here is LogMeIn. LogMeIn.com is where you go. They have free versions. They've recently limited the free versions to 10 workstations that you can configure. If you have to have more than 10 places to connect to, then you need to pay them money now. Also, their professional versions do printing and some of the nicer function. So you can decide, they basically try to get you, I need to print. Well, then pay us money. But if you just need access, sit at your desk and do what you do. LogMeIn is great. It's simple to run. Again, we can track it. We can block it. All right. As well, in terms of if you don't want these things going on. A real big word for remote access that needs to be in your vocabulary. I highlighted it in red there. Multi-factor authentication. All right. And what that means is that you're not going to just accept that ID and password. Hey, it's Scott. My password is Sunshine. Let me at my stuff. All right. Too easy to guess. Too easy for bad people to get in and get at your information and the like. Basically, what all these products are now doing is they're adding multi-factor authentication. If you went, I belong to Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. If I sign on now and say, hey, it's me with my ID and password, my cell phone buzzes and I get a text message that says, here's a code, and I have to type that code into a box on top of my ID and password, and only then can I get at my bank account. And that's great because I could post here my ID and password, and you still couldn't get at my banking information because I have my cell phone, and when you sign on, it gives you the choices. Do you want to call me and tell me the number? Do you want to call me at home? Do you want to call my cell? Do you want to text my cell? And basically, what it's doing is creating another layer. So if something captures, this Zeus Trojan from the Russian mafia captures your credentials to try to steal your banking information, steal your money, what have you. Well, without that third thing, that multi-factor, they have nothing, right? Because all that's going to happen is your account's going to lock out. You'll get an email saying your account's been locked out, and something was going on. LogMeIn, even the free version now, does this. Other things you may be involved with, this isn't part of this presentation, but Twitter now, if you're into Twitter, Twitter has a multi-factor authentication built in to it. Dropbox, which we'll talk about, has a multi-factor authentication built in. For the VPNs, we can do the multi-factor authentication with that. If you have the small business server with the web workplace, we can do the multi-factor authentication. That costs money for that one. Not a lot of money. It's really not a lot of money to do that. But I would strongly encourage you that that's the new word in your vocabulary for these things. And if you're doing LogMeIn, as many people are, you go to the security tab on the right when you log in, and there's a place for you to set up this multi-factor authentication. And I show you on the bottom right here what it looks like. It sends me an email to my phone, and then it asks me to type the address back. This is huge. So again, if you're doing LogMeIn, what I just said is free. You get off this call, you go do that right away. I mean, any place that you can do multi-factor authentication, you need to do it when you're dealing with this sort of stuff. Again, pros, simple, great. Like I said, people can set this up without your knowledge. We have ways to track that and know that, but you get into, what's your policy for remote access? Are people allowed to do this? There's work reasons, and you may say, I got a job share person or work from home, and this makes them more productive. That's great, but you probably want to know that they're doing it as opposed to somebody just in their little cube setting this up and coming in and out of the office without you. So that's something we always have to think about. Remote access gateways. This is real security. Okay, we deal with managing multiple remote users. there are some of these office offerings that can dramatically improve the experience. For instance, if we did the remote desktop thing or the log me in thing or the Citrix go-to meeting, those type of remote experiences, audio and video are going to basically be unusable. They're productivity things. I want to run the database. I want to run QuickBooks. I want to run Word. I want to run Outlook. Check my mail. Those type of things. Very good at. What they're very bad at is I want to watch a video. I want to listen to audio. They're very, very bad. But there are some products that we'll talk about in a second which provide those experiences as well. So you could literally be anywhere. We'll talk about that in a minute. Remote web workplace. I talked about this in Small Business Server. This provides a gateway through that Small Business Server. If you own Small Business Server, you already own this to get at your user's desktop. And there's some basic controls in there. Bigger organizations, potentially there's something called Microsoft Terminal Services. And that basically takes a server, splits it up, makes it into essentially multiple desktops. So your users remote into that, connect, and they do whatever they do, each of them thinking it's their own server. I did a petroleum company across the river, and this is how every one of their users works, is they basically all come into this, and that's their working desktop. So that's pretty common. Now, some of the premier products in this. Citrix. Citrix has been around for a long time, extremely high performance, can provide remote access to voice, audio, video, provides a traditional desktop anyplace, anywhere. So, as well as making applications appear that are inside the office on a web page and run really, really well from a web page. This is cool stuff. It works. It's expensive stuff, but if you have that type of need, you're going to essentially get a lot of value out of that. The alternative product, which is something we use, is VMware View. And my understanding is the Chamber just implemented this as well over the summer. I heard that as well. And this is kind of the same thing as Citrix, but from VMware. And essentially, we provide these high-quality, anytime, anyplace desktops, whether you're in the office, out of the office. I can do it from my iPad. I can do it from my iPhone. I can do it from an Android tablet. I can do it from my laptop. Wherever you are really is irrelevant with these things. Our office, all our administrative and sales staff, this is their only desktop. They have these little bricks, take like 40 watts, that are essentially get them to this desktop. And if we have snow sometime over the winter, we're probably going to have snow. We're going to be delayed. Maybe we're going to get hit that we're going to be closed. Well, our staff can sit at home and functionally do whatever they do here. It's totally irrelevant to them. The only difficulty is answering the phone, but we'll get that via email. So worst case is they can, they'll get the message as soon as it comes in and call you right back. So literally, if it snows or somebody has to work from home because the furnace person is coming today and they don't know what time, they're coming or how long it's going to be, they can just sit at home and continue to do their work no different, than sitting in the office. So we use that ourselves personally. It's quite amazing technology. Security. We talked about multi-factor, so I'm not going to beat up on that again. In terms of multi-factor, there's a couple ways to do it. There's over the phone. There's text messages, there's email messages, there's you'll see these things if you don't have a smartphone. The acronym is a dongle, and basically what the dongle is you have a single-use code that goes with the next time you sign in to the network or to your computer. And so what you do is either plug this little dongle into the USB port on the computer you're at, or you press a button and a code appears. And that code is your code that's only good for that next session that what you're signing into knows that that's the code that you're going to use. So if you didn't have the dongle, that somebody had your ID and password and didn't have the dongle, then they have nothing. And now what's happened is most of these people have these multi-factor apps as a smartphone app. So if you have a Android or iPhone or the like, they have an app that you can load to be a dongle. Another one that's free that's really cool I use personally is Google Authenticator, and many people say they will now support Google Authenticator, and that does the same function. I have a little app on my phone. I press it, it gives me a code, I type it in. It's wonderful, and it's completely free if it's supported. Password policies. When it's just you guys in the office, doors locked, that's one thing. But when you start exposing your computers in your office to the network, to the internet, and start opening these doors to leverage your productivity and your information better for your business and your employees, we got to start being more serious about security. We talked about this VPN thing. That's a big deal. We talked about multi-factor authentication. Big deal. Passwords. Your passwords need to be secure. All right. You don't want your master passwords to be taped to the monitor. You don't want everybody to have the master key, so to speak. Treat the master passwords just like you treat a master key. You go get the key, you unlock the door, you put it back, right? You need to think about that with passwords. Secure password, 7 characters or more long, both numbers and letters, upper lower case, and some sort of symbol. That's kind of the general spiel on passwords. An example, all right, Hudson, right, lowercase h, capital U, D, 50 instead of SO, and exclamation point. Kind of not that horrible to remember. It meets the basic standard. However, the closer you get to gibberish, the better your password is. So, you got this balance. If your password is something that you got to tape to your screen to remember what it is, well, that's no good either. And if your password is sunshine, that's no good either. So what we want to do is try to make it as complex and convoluted as possible while still allowing you to remember what it is. So one thing I do is just purposely horribly misspell something. So I take a word that I'm going to remember, and then I just put some letters or some symbols or some numbers in the middle of it so that it spells nothing. The password crackers that these bad folks use know how to, in my first example, even though it meets the standard, they know how to substitute common numbers for letters. They know to throw random symbols at the beginning and the end when they're doing their thing. So that is, the more towards gibberish you get, the better you are. But the harder it is to remember, which then goes back to the multi-factor thing, because if you have the multi-factor thing, even if it's a weaker password, it's still no good without that third box. And they're not going to have that third box if they didn't steal your phone or steal your dongle. So anyway, that's the standard. In the credit card industry, which is now also HIPAA with the medical practice, basically the standard is in lockouts. Their standard is 6. That if you try 6 times and can't get in, that you should be shunned from the network as well. Because we don't want these people sitting out on the internet with these password crackers just banging against your email or banging against your VPN connection, just randomly trying combinations to guess Hudson. Those type of things. So what we want to do is we want to have as secure a password as possible. And in many networks, we can enforce this to say you can't just go cat, dog, dog, cat, that type of thing. And it'll remember previous passwords, and it'll enforce a basic complexity rule. It'll force you to change your password after so many days. We can enforce many of these things, and you really need to, if you're exposing your network to the internet, you really need to be aggressive about this, and people are going to complain, and they complain, but that's life. And this is your data, this is your business, this is your life, blood, so we need to keep it safe. The other thing you need to do when you're doing remote access is you need to think about acceptable use policies, AUPs is the acronym. What is the user authorized to do on your network? What are they allowed to do remotely? What's their expectation of privacy? What's their expectation in terms of maintaining remote equipment? So if you're letting that person from home with the computer in their den connect to your network, do they have antivirus? Are they buying it? Do they have anti-malware? Do they do updates? Who owns the data? If that cell phone has your contact list in it, that's your data, and that's the edge of your network. So therefore, a policy saying it's my stuff and you agree that you're not going to take it and you're not going to maintain off-site copies, without my permission, things like that. How to find your office remotely. There's 2 types of addresses. One is a dynamic address. If you have a basic connection with Verizon Fios or Time One or Optimum, you often have a dynamic address. It means it changes. You have an address, you get on the internet, but the address may change. So it's more or less for you to go out. Verizon does it a lot, and it's an option with Time Warner and it's an option with Optimum, is to get a static address. That you have an address, just like you have a street address of your business, you have a physical address on the internet. It doesn't move. If we're trying to find you remotely and you're moving around, it makes it a whole lot harder to do. All right? So we would prefer a static address whenever possible. Now, products like Log Me In and Go To My PC cheat, because what they're doing is they're phoning home from the computer to tell Log Me In or Go To My PC where you are, and essentially computer pulls you into the remote computer, goes to Log Me In, and who's already talking to your computer in your office, and essentially pulls you in through the firewall, even though the firewall is blocking. It works exactly like a Trojan would do if you got a virus Trojan on your workstation. Works the same way. So they kind of cheat that they work really well in a dynamic address environment because they're always checking in saying, here's the connection, I'll pull you into this computer. But if you're trying to do a VPN or a remote desktop, you kind of need to know where you are. One way to do this, if you don't want to spend the extra money, if it does cost extra money with your internet provider, is dindns.com. It used to be free. Now it's $25 a year. Basically, what they do is they make up a name. So we're CSI, so it would be csi.dindns.com. And then what happens is a computer in your office is always telling DNS what your current address is. So all you do is always say, I'm going to csi.dns.com, and they figure it out. And you always find home, even though home might be moving around. It's pretty nice. So we basically talked about that. Now, alternative file access. If we're going to just want files, there are some ways to just share files. I just need a spreadsheet. I need a PDF. I need a Word document. One of the popular ones that I personally use and many people use is called Dropbox. It's a cloud-based share folder. So I literally can install it on my workstation and my laptop and my phone and my iPad. And if I drop a PDF in to read, say, into one of those, it will show up in all the other places. I use this with my kids. When my kids do their homework, they can dump the file into the Dropbox, and it'll just appear in my Dropbox, and I can read it and comment on their report or whatever they were doing. It's really cool. Couple things to realize. Just like with Gmail, Gmail, the computer reads everything that goes through Google Gmail. Everything you put into Dropbox is read by the Dropbox computer. Do not use this stuff for confidential information. I use it to read random PDFs, my kids' homework, documents that white papers, documents that people want me to read that aren't confidential. Dropbox now has multi-factor authentication for free. If you use Dropbox, when you get off this call, go to the web page for Dropbox to the security tab and turn it on. All right. It's cross-platform, works on Macs. It's free to 2 gig, and then it's pretty cheap to go beyond that. Other ones that exist, like Dropbox, are Google Drive. Microsoft has SkyDrive. Citrix has their version, which is ShareFile, Box.com, SugarSync, VMware Horizon Suite, and then Ignite is a newer vendor. These are all just, I need to get access to files. I drop a file, the office drops a file in the Dropbox, and it just automatically appears on my iPad in the customer location that I can pull up. Really, really cool for that. But again, confidential. That's not where you're putting confidential things. And the problem with many of these products, Dropbox, Google Drive, SkyDrive, is that it's really easy for people to steal your confidential information with Dropbox, right? Because they could just throw it in there and it'll just magically leave the building. So you get into things, if you need control over what is appropriate information to leave the building and what's not, these simple Dropbox-like solutions are not really the way to go. Things like the VMware Horizon Suite, the Ignite, the Citrix file share allow you to do more of a business enterprise sharing. So you could say certain types of data is accessible in certain places. So if you're sitting and walking around in our office with the iPad or with your laptop or whatever, and you want to access files, well, we're going to let you at whatever you're allowed to access. But when you leave here and you're still on that same iPad and you're now out at home or a customer location or Panera Bread or what have you, there may be stuff that's in our files stored on our share drives that I don't want sitting in Panera Bread on your iPad. And so some of these enterprise things like the VMware and Ignite and Citrix ShareFile allows us to start delineating what the appropriate location to access information, not just give it all over the place. All right. So that's a real big deal. But we start with my favorite thing, multi-factor authentication. If you're doing Dropbox, realize they are reading what you put in there, realizing if you're not doing multi-factor authentication, that this has been hacked a number of times already. All right, Dropbox. So consider this, no man's land, and use it if you're using it for convenience. Now, a lot of people would turn that around and say, "Oh my gosh, what we do? I just can't have somebody putting, this information in a Dropbox. We can block this stuff too." So we have ways of doing that. Mobile devices for your phone, iPad, Android tablet, what have you. All the things that I mentioned have clients for this. So, now I can use my iPhone to run my desktop. It's not a really fun experience. However, if I just need to pull up an Excel spreadsheet and look at one number, it works, and it's been immensely useful. But I wouldn't sit there and try to do real work. All right. Mobile options. We're getting towards the end here, and I'm about to wrap up. Basically, BlackBerry, kind of a dying thing. The company seems to be generally imploding. They were trying to sell themselves to Lenovo in China, but Canada blocked that, and then the private equity thing fell under, and the CEO just left the other day. So if you have a BlackBerry, you are what was once amazing is kind of a dying thing. ActiveSync in iPhones, iPads, Windows Mobile to get it, say Exchange or Office 365. Droid has a corporate sync. You can generally get your mail there with the more advanced products like Exchange or Office 365. You can get it your calendars. If you're a Gmail person, you can set that up on your phones as well to do that. Mobile security concerns. Mobile platforms, especially Android-based devices, are increasingly targets of malware Trojan attacks. All right. Google, with their Google App Store, is kind of less rigorous, I guess is the polite way to say, than, say, Apple is in control. And so increasingly, since this phone, since this tablet is the edge of your network, increasingly bad people are trying to get stuff on your phone that can start collecting information. Even Apple, a couple years ago, they had the incident where you would download applications, and these applications were harvesting the entire contact list on your phone back to the person that gave you the solitaire game. And so there was a pretty big controversy on that these people were harvesting just everything in your contact list on your phone. And if that's synced back to your Exchange or the like, that could be a lot of stuff. So these things go on. You get into that appropriate use. Who owns the device? Is it the employees? Is it yours? That's the end of your network. That employee goes renegade on you. Can you blow up the phone? Basically, brick it is the term we would use, so that the stuff that's yours in that phone is dead. How do you know your data's gone from that device if the employee leaves? We have solutions to that. There are a number of solutions in the industry, but it gets back to, that phone, that tablet is the edge of your network. It has your information in it. Have you made those things clear to your users that it's your stuff, and if you're going to let them connect their phone to your stuff, that you have the right to wipe it basically without their permission. We can do it remotely upon their exit as part of your separation process. You talk about you go to hotels, you go to Panera Bread, free Wi-Fi. Don't do serious things there. Don't be doing your banking. Don't be buying things. If you have to, you go to a hotel, you're set up, leverage the VPN connection so that you basically are not setting yourself up for bad things. Closing this out here, wireless guest connections. This is kind of the other side of the coin on remote access. You have a waiting room, a lobby, you have customers, you have vendors coming in. Are you providing them wireless access? I go into some places and I open up my iPad and I'm on the inside of their network. It's a completely foreign device. They don't know if I have antivirus. They don't know if I'm infected. All right. Plus the fact that I'm on the inside of their network, which means I could theoretically wander around. What we want is if you do have wireless, we want it to be access for you and your people in an effortless way, and then we don't want your customers, we don't want people sitting in the parking lot outside your front door to be on your network, potentially looking at your stuff, stealing your stuff, or infecting you. More and more real commercial wireless, and it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive wireless, has the ability to set up these separate internal networks. And so it doesn't have to be a big deal, but I would never, ever, ever allow a customer or someone off the street to be sitting inside my network on my wireless in my office. Bad deal. We need to implement security. All right, on our internal wireless for us. So your office staff would be configured with these security protocols and not just have it open or weak security. The other thing to remember, if you're doing guest wireless, whatever they're doing counts against your connection. So if they're watching, Netflix in your lobby, that's going through your internet connection and that's impacting what your staff has. So that's just something to think about as well. A couple final thoughts as we get close to the end of the hour here. Some of the things I talked about to wrap it up. Have a commercial grade firewall in your business. All right, it doesn't have to cost $10,000, but it's not going to Best Buy and walking down that first aisle on the right there, down by Geek Squad. That's not where you're going to find that. You're going to have to talk to someone like myself or on the IT committee. We can help you with those type of things if you're not sure what to do. Decide what type of access you need. Use solutions, if at all possible, that has multi-factor authentication. Like I said, more and more are just doing it naturally, and that doesn't always have to cost money. If you need multiple users to access remotely, decide how you're going to manage that, where are they going to connect to. Have a policy with your staff on what's acceptable use of your technology, both in the office and outside the office. Make sure if you're going into remote solutions that you have a defined password policy that forces secure policies. Have a good quality connection. The more you want to do that branch office sitting there being just like your office staff, the better both ends need to be. And decide if you need guest wireless and configure it so that those people aren't sitting inside your network. That was what I had, and they're coming up against the top of the hour. Couple things here. We're going to post this slide deck on the chamber site, so you'll be able to get it there. Also, this webcast is being recorded, so that will also be posted. The future webcast that we have set up right now on the calendar is security, web, and then DR backup. Those are the posted dates. We do intend to do our May live seminars. We've been doing two different weeks in May. IBM has hosted them the last couple years. Don't know what's going to go on this time yet, but you can be looking for that on the chamber site for all these things. The ones listed and future ones, you can go to the chamber event site and register for them. If you do have questions, I have the chat box open. If you have something you'd like to ask, by all means, do that. We would very much like to know if you have other suggestions. We took a stab at this. This is the first one. Hopefully this was of value to you and that you like this format. If you have other ideas for topics, that would reasonably fit in an hour, that you'd like to have the committee consider and present, we can certainly add content to that. We just need to know what you'd like. So please share that with us. Now, what we're going to do for those that attended today is Stephanie at the Chamber, I believe, is going to send you a survey. If you registered through the Chamber, I think she'll have your email address. And if you fill out the survey and get it back to us, what we have for you is we're going to draw from the surveys we return. We have Microsoft, our friends at Microsoft. My company has CSI has worked with them, and in support of the Chamber events, they are giving away today, and will be on the other seminars as well that are listed so far, a free copy of Windows. It'll end up being Windows 8.1 Professional to one lucky attendee today. We also have a full copy of Microsoft Office Professional 2013, and we have a bunch of Microsoft Store discount coupons. And I guess the closest Microsoft store is over in Danbury at the Danbury Fair Mall. I think there's one in Westchester as well at the Westchester Galleria. So we encourage you when Stephanie sends that out, if you could please fill that out, share your thoughts. If you have topics, please put them on the list so we can consider that and try to improve and expand, our offerings to you in terms of what the Chamber Technology Committee can do to help you with some of these things. So with that, I thank you, and if you guys do have questions, like I said, type it into the box there, and I will be happy to answer them. If not, this is the end of our prepared material. I'll hang around for a few minutes, and you can look for the email from Stephanie and the links on the Chamber site for both the slides and the webcast. It's been my pleasure talking to you guys today. I hope you got a lot out of it. So doesn't look like anybody's putting any questions in, so I'll hang out a few more minutes, but I'm gonna probably I'll wait like 5 minutes and then we'll close it out. So if you don't have any questions, feel free off, and I will one of the future changes. Have a great day. Go to assist. That's a good question. Go to assist is really good. There's some other things in that genre. Go to assist, WebEx, BombGar. Go to assist comes from GoToMeeting, which is Citrix product. They're very good support things. I didn't talk about it in the prepared remarks, but basically sometimes, like us folks in the technology business, we need to get quickly onto a client's machine. They're having a problem, they're confused, and we need to just kind of join their session to mirror it or to do some sort of remediation. So I like GoToAssist a lot. I really do. I like WebEx a lot, which is the Citrix product. I like LogMeInRescue a lot, which is actually the product that I subscribe to for that function. And I like BombGar a whole lot too, which is another product in that family. Those tend to be generally, WebEx will do like this Join Me does in terms of presentations, but generally GoToAssist, BombGar, LogMeInRescue are basically designed to do remote support. So most people in the technology business are supporting technology. QuickBooks, you call Intuit and you need help with QuickBooks install, they're going to do one of those things. So I think it's great. They all cost money though. Those at that level, that's always a subscription, generally by number of seats. So how many seats? Some of them, from a support standpoint, some of them have the ability to get to mobile devices, which is kind of the last mile that it's very hard. You get back to somebody's trying to configure that iPhone to point to email, and you're trying to stumble along explaining to them what they should be clicking on the screen. Some of them have clients that'll run on a mobile device. Not all of them do, though. And yeah, with all these things, there tends to be a trial. That's true. Whoever wrote that in, that's a very true statement that you load it. It takes minutes. I mean, literally. If you get one of these things, it takes minutes to launch. What you guys had to do to start the Join.me seminar, that's pretty much it, right? Except you may be on the other end of it, is you may be telling somebody, like if it was me, I would say, okay, go to logmein123.com. I'm going to give you a code. You type the code. It says download. You say yes. Just keep clicking yes. And then when I go to connect, it's going to ask your permission for me to connect. And you say yes. And some of them will start read-only where I can't make changes. I can just watch you do stuff. And then you have to grant permission to actually allow me to do anything but watch you do whatever you do. So it's pretty effortless to set these things up if you have need for that you need to be sitting at one of your clients across town or across the country. I've done it all the way to South Africa. I mean, I've sat here and done work in South Africa using those tools. So good stuff. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to close it out here. Again, I thank you for taking time out of your day for this, and have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.